Hey you guys, how's it going? This is Salix86753009, and I know instead of the last Metroid Other M related video, I believe I said that this will be probably the last Metroid Other M video. Well, I guess that's now not true. This has been bugging me for a while now, and, well, I just need to say these things. Yesterday, I was hanging out on the Google Plus Hangout with some friends. I guess it would have been this morning. And I can use my capture card as a webcam, essentially. So I did. And I decided, you know, why not just play Metroid Other M just for the heck of it.
Metroids? Here?
And I did.
Impossible.
The chat was halfway over,
tolerate cold temperatures.
and I wanted to continue playing. Then, when the chat was pretty much all over and done,
the baby was the last
I wanted to continue playing. I mean, I wanted to finish and beat the game. So I guess what I said about the replayability is wrong. There is some replayability to this game. It took me a year of not playing it, but I can still play it. And then it was actually, I was enjoying it, which is weird because if you guys watched my last video, I kind of just threw the controller away and just rage quit on it. But it was different this time. And I want just to close this up so I don't do another video. So, this is going to be talk about Metroid Other M. Now, this game's been out for 2 years now. Or was it released in 09? I can't remember now. No, it was not. It was not released in 09. But I'm just going to kind of go over it, essentially review the game again. Alright, well, this game is definitely not the most perfect Metroid title, and it isn't the greatest Metroid title, but it is still a good addition to the franchise. Now, you have a couple things that go against it, and then you have a couple things that go with it. You have gameplay. Great gameplay. Surprisingly, music. The one thing I didn't like about the music is that you can't listen to it outside of the game. That's why I kind of freaked out. But now that I played the game again, the music is actually really nice in some parts. You have overall the story, which some people are going to totally bash me for that. I need to explain why I like some of the story and why I don't like some of the story. And overall, the stylishness. I love the style of the game. It was overall just a really cool sci-fi look to it. Now, let's first hit the gameplay. The gameplay is just tons of fun. It's definitely something that Temco would have came up with. You have the awesome finishing moves and whatnot. The only thing that I didn't like about the gameplay is that it often puts up, hey, run into a guy and try, you know, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? It's halfway through the game already. Don't you think I would have figured this out? Apparently not. Otherwise, the gameplay, I have to say, is actually pretty flawless. Now, for the story. The things I like about the story is that, number one, they touch on Samus's past. For the people that are like, well, they have the manga, they don't need to do that. Who reads the manga other than dedicated hardcore fans? No one. No one that sat there and just played through Metroid Prime Trilogy is going to go read the manga. So I think there needs to be a game that elaborates on her past. Definitely there needs to be one. And I know this game definitely started that ball rolling. Now, the story in this game had a lot of potential. I mean, the whole deleter scene, I'm just like, okay, this is cool. So that means Samus has to be careful because there's someone in here picking off every single person. Tons of, I really like that storyline. The things that I think they could have done better was, well, I understand why they wanted Samus to have the monotone voice when narrating, because she's looking on the past events. This isn't current. She's looking back on this, through reflection, and it's so it's hard to listen to because it's the monotone voice, which, you know what, in some cases is not the greatest idea, but in some ways you can look at it and it actually makes sense as she's kind of looking back on it. But you look at it, she has the monotone voice during the dialogue, like during the narration dialogue, and then in-game she actually has the emotion voice. So it makes you wonder if they were trying to go for that. Like, would it have been too confusing if they would have been both full of emotion, instead of one being looking back on it and then one being emotion, full of emotion, Well, you know what I mean. It's like, would that have been too confusing? I actually don't know. I mean, if they had tried it, it could have worked out. Another thing that I didn't like about it was that they were it's just the cutscenes. I really don't like games with cutscenes. That's just a personal preference of mine. Some games are totally, some games totally break away from that by having a really, really, really great story. Xenoblade Chronicles is one definitely good example of that. And well, the way that I look at it is that this game, you know what? The cutscenes themselves were well put together. They look great, with the high-res models and all. It's just, they're not that fun to sit through over and over and over and over again. I mean, of course, I haven't played it in a year, so I could sit there and I could play through them again. But after that, I'm just going to be skipping through cutscenes. It's just, I don't care for how it was done. I could see what Nintendo was going for, but I think it should have been done differently. Like, they could have done lore, they could have done a little bit of cutscenes here and there, and then have just sort of chatter between characters. It's like through gameplay, so you could stop and listen to it and say, oh, that's interesting, or you can just leave. And of course, I do want to say this right off the bat. This is really Nintendo's first attempt at a big story-based game. So, I mean, you gotta cut them some slack here. I mean, Nintendo has never really done this deep of a story in a game, and it's just, I think, in some ways they succeeded, because you need to make some mistakes to become better. I mean, it's not like your first game is going to be 100% perfect. It's not. It's never going to happen. Now for the music. The music in this game, I claimed it was just environmental noises and there was only 3 tracks that I actually liked. That is true. For the stuff you can actually listen to outside of the game. After watching some of the cutscenes again, the cutscenes have some very good music. Of course, they're part of, I think they're AIF files? No. Darn, I can't remember what they are. And they cannot be separated from the dialogue, because it's all one audio, because it's essentially a movie file. That is some of the best music in those video files. But, of course, we cannot get access to those. But that music, oh my gosh, all the orchestrated stuff, it tugs at your heartstrings. For me, if it weren't for that music caused me to really actually tear up when Adam died. Music affects me big time. I don't know why. Movies, not so much. But music really gets me. And so, this is what I think. It's like, I think overall, the music in this game really did well. in some areas. Some areas the music was just kind of blah, environmental noises, you know, all that junk. But it did have some good stuff. Now, I'm now going to talk about really the fans' reactions. This is something I kind of hinted on in the last couple videos, but I never really actually dedicated talking about it. See, I believe there's a couple types of Metroid fans. You have the hardcore, like myself, that try to reverse engineer the Morph Ball. We know all, if not, we know most, if not all of the Metroid lore. And overall, we've played it and beaten every single game. And then you have the casual Metroid fans. They have beaten all the games, yeah, but they don't know much of the background behind it. They just like the games. Then you have the Metroid Prime players. These people think that Metroid was eventually, you know, Metroid was a franchise created in 2002. And that's it. They think Metroid Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, and Metroid Prime Trilogy. That's it. Now, I think the fans that really didn't like this game were either the casual Metroid fans, which, you know, they might be hardcore. I'm just saying that as, you know, they casually play the Metroid games, not hardcore. Then the Metroid Prime players. The Metroid Prime players would definitely not like this because of the difference in playstyle, and of course, Retro Studios did not make it. I think that would have upset a lot of people from that area. Then of course you have the casual Metroid fanbase, which really, they don't know much of the backstory, so a lot of this stuff, like not being able to face Ridley on all this stuff, would not have made any sense. I mean, to them, they were probably thinking, wait a minute, she's fought him so many times before, how could this not work? If you don't understand how Samus's mind works, you will not understand this game. See, Samus, ever since K2L, has always suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. Inside the manga, this is extremely apparent. So, even though Samus, yes, she was prepared to fight Ridley in Metroid and Super Metroid. She was prepared to. She wasn't surprised at all. In Super Metroid, though, Ridley was dead. The remains destroyed. The space pirates cannot recreate them again. So she had closure. She thought it was over with Ridley. What a surprise that would be when he turns out to be alive again after she had just witnessed that. I mean, imagine if, you know, one of your family members died, and then all of a sudden you went, sat home in front of your TV, and he was sitting next to you and said hi. That's the kind of shock that she had, and with post-traumatic stress disorder, that shock can easily mess you up so bad right there. I mean, they've taken it to psychiatrists. They're like, okay, explain what's happening here, and they said that's exactly what happens in post-traumatic stress disorder. So see, if you were not a hardcore Metroid fan, you would not have understood that. You definitely would have not. And there's so many other things that can be easily explained by just reading the manga. So for you guys that have not, there's 2 volumes with, I think, 18 or 19 chapters. So I mean, there's definitely, it's a good read. Metroid Recon, I believe, has it set up for download. That's what I'm doing. I'm currently on chapter 8, I want to say. So I mean, I'm a little ways into it, but I've learned a lot of my stuff from online searches and whatnot. Then I noticed a lot of people don't like the linearity. That is one thing that really hit me, because I don't like it either. But for a story-based game, you have to have some sort of linearity. You can't have sequence breaking in a story-based game, because then you'd throw the story off. That's just how that works. Now, of course, could they have done it in a different way? Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the story-based Metroid games because of that. But I think they should have allowed some little wiggle room for the linearity, including, like, okay, you know, you can go to different sectors as long as it's not going to spoil the story, and, you know, you can search for expansions and whatnot there. Instead of being told to go to point A to point B and then all the other doors are locked. Now, another thing that really bugged me about the fanbase is that the story was too hard to understand. Like, they couldn't figure out who the deleter was and whatnot. How can you not know who it was? And I elaborated this on more in my talk about ESRB. I think these were mostly younger kids that didn't understand it and then complained about it. And overall, I think this really hit the game pretty hard too in story. It's just, I think people need to go and learn common sense and learn how to use logical deduction, because it's pretty easy once you figure it out who it is, especially if you were paying attention to the cutscenes. Now,
no, you don't understand.
My final verdict on the game. Is it good? Is it bad? It's good. I mean, if I had to give it a number, I would definitely be right up there with the 85 reviews. It's just, it is a fun game. It's a good game. The story can keep you going. It's just, there are some things that are flawed with it, which is understandable, because this is Nintendo's first story-based game. It is really understandable.
Stay away from me.
And you know what? There is some replayability to this game. So, I mean, shelling out $10 for this game is definitely worth it. And then you have, just overall, the game is nicely set up.
Listen to me.
Yes, it's linear. And overall, there are just, again, some issues that just need to be resolved in the next game. But otherwise, this is a good Metroid title, especially in waiting for the next Metroid game to be announced, which will hopefully be this E3 for 2013. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to say. So I will promise you guys this will be my last Metroid Other M related talking video, other than a Let's Play, because overall, I just wanted to get this out of the way. The game is good, not great. It definitely deserves at least an 85 out of 100 rating. And, you know, it is fun. If you look at it with an open mind, try reading the manga, you know, you'll understand the story better. And this game does go and support the manga very well. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend this. Alright. So I guess that's the end of this video then. Alright, if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. And then of course, if you guys have not seen any of my other Metroid Other M related videos, please, I would definitely recommend checking those out. What I do not like and what I do like, essentially. One is me defending, one is me totally bashing the game. Then of course, I also have a Google Plus community set up, Metroid Fanbase. On Google Plus, you just type in Metroid, go and search under communities, and it should be one of the biggest ones there, because actually right now we have a good 20 or so people, and it's actually pretty interesting what we've been chatting about. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. I'd like to get more people in there, because then we can have bigger and bigger conversations about different Metroid topics. And of course, if you guys have not checked it out and have a Facebook account, I have a Facebook page set up at facebook.com/Silex867539. There I will be releasing updates, bloopers, pictures of games that I'm currently playing, stuff like that. Alright, well, this has been Silex867539. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you guys later.